Start. Yes. Good evening to everyone. Good evening to everyone. Good evening. Great. Okay. Welcome to Big Data Meetup. Just to understand the audience, have you come for Big Data Meetup before? Just raise your hand if you have come. Okay, couple of hands. So you know that we had this meetup before, right? But unfortunately, we couldn't continue for various reasons. So somehow this has been reinitiated. So first of all, we must he coordinated, he organized all of these things. So thank you very much, Tarun, for reinitiating this Big Data Meetup. Okay. Again, I want to understand the audience. Raise hand if you are a student of any university or institute. Or let me tell you the agenda, what we have planned for this meetup. As usual, we'll be having two sessions. So the first one will be delivered by Dinesh Asanka, and the second one is going to be a panel discussion. We have there are okay. The second one is panel discussion. So what you have to do is now we need to make this more interactive. So just make sure whenever you see something in these slides, like if you want to get something clarified, you can simply ask the question from Dinesh, right? But if you have something to be discussed in detail, what the best thing we can do is keep it for the panel discussion, okay? Because we are going to have a panel discussion. We'll be spending about 30 to 45 minutes on it. We have planned questions on it, or planned items on it. In addition to that, if you have something to be discussed in detail, keep those questions for the second session. Okay, right. The first session will be based on big data. Everybody knows about 3 V's related to big data. Raise your hand if you have worked with big data implementations. It can be, okay, only few. So do we have to assume that most of you guys are new to big data? Yes or no? You have to talk. Okay, so in that case, Rich, you have to adjust your session based on it. What you have to remember is whenever we talk about big data, we always talk about 3 characteristics, 3 V's. Okay, I'm sure that everybody knows about it. But there are additional V's to be, we have to discuss those additional V's because some of the V's are considered as most important V's than the V's we always highlight, right? So he'll be taking one of the V's which we do not take or which we do not consider much, and he'll be working on it. He'll be talking about it, various aspects of it, right? That's his session. So make sure you ask question from him again. Okay, quick questions only, right? If something has to be discussed in detail, keep it, right? So that's the plan. So we'll start. Let me introduce Dinesh. He's Dinesh Asanka. He's a senior architect in Virtusa, and he's one of the MVP's most valuable professional, Microsoft most valuable professional in Sri Lanka. And he has experience over 15 years on database management system, BI implementation, big data, and he's a visiting lecturer at SLE. Okay. So he has a lot of experience on data, database management system, and big data. So I'm sure that he will deliver something really good for you. Okay, so please welcome.
hope that you can hear me. You can hear me, right? I'm not handling the mic. Yeah, so uncertainty in big data and how we handle it. Before that, I usually present this slide or this image in every big data presentation I do. Just want to tell you how important of big data. Now this is, again, hope you can see at the axis, right? It's the smallest I can do. I can't make much smaller than this, right? So if you look at the big data, so these are all the emerging technologies, IoT, right? So you have the Internet of Things, natural language, question answering, mobile health monitoring, likewise the most recent type of emerging technology. Now look at where the big data is. So big data is not at the peak. Peak, obviously we will see the IoT or the Internet of Things, which is now surprises over there. So if you look at that color, dark blue color, which represent that is, it will take another 5 or 10 years. Right? So this big data, the research level will be there 5 or 10 years. That's what this 2015 Gartner's report has said. Which means there are a lot of things that we can use. Right? In that note, let's start my session on uncertainty handling. Now, what is uncertainty? I'm asking not from the technical perspective. What do you mean by uncertainty? Okay, right? So now in computer science, uncertain data is that contains, it is deviating from the correct value. Right? It is deviating from the correct value, or it is deviating from the intended value. That's two different things. I might not be able to, I might not need the correct value, but I have the intended value. But uncertainty is I different the deviate from the correct value or the intended value. Now we always build models. Why we build models? What is the reason to us to build models? Why we build models? Simulate, right? To simulate the issues that we have, right? So when we are building the model, we need to look at three attributes. One is complexity. If the model is not complex, why we need to build a model, right? So then next one is credibility. Of course, you need credibility to the model. Otherwise, no one will use your model. Third one, the last one is uncertainty. Now, if you look at our life, real world, everything is uncertain. Now, let's look at like we always use uncertain. Now, when we have to face it. Yeah. So when we are referring to people, and we say good people, but when we are saying good, are we certain? We are not. When we are referring to bad people, are we certain? We are not. But when we categorize people like, and then when we want to make decisions out of it, if we have not taken that uncertainty into our database or data, we are making incorrect decisions. That's the whole point of this uncertainty, right? We need to identify the uncertainty, and then we need to treat them and we need to handle the uncertainty so that our final decision will not be deviate from the model, so that model is more credible. That's the whole purpose of this uncertainty handling, right? So Dinesh was saying some V's. So there are some are saying 3 V's, some are saying 4 V's, some are saying 5 V's. So basically, there are 5 V's of big data, and out of those 4 V's are challenges. That is where the 5 V's and 4. Right? Now, 5 V's obviously it's just since there are few people who are not little new to big data. I'll just go with them. Value, volume, variety, velocity, and veracity. Value is obviously we all know what value is. It might be statistical value, it might be event that we are recording, whatever, right? So now value is not relevant to big data, right? Any database or any database system will have a value. Volume. Now, so when we are saying big data, so obviously we need to have large volume, right? So it's when you are saying big, so when we are talking about we are talking about tetrabytes of data, terabytes of data, right? Large volume. The third one is a variety. Now in today's environment, we are no longer dealing with one database system. We are no longer dealing with multiple database systems. You might have 3 database systems, and then you might have email. That's also your data. May not be classical columns and rows, fine, but that is your data. You have log, again, no rows and column structure that we are used in here, but still that is your data. The video stream, data. Images, still the data, right? So you have variety of data. Velocity is, okay, you have the data. How frequently they are changing? You can have large volume of data, but if it is not changing, that is not a challenge, right? If it is static data, then there is no challenge for a big data professional. Another 1 CT, 2 CT. Right, so that's another challenge. Now, last point is the one which is more relevant to today's discussion, that is veracity. Now, how do we know the captured data is correct? The data that we capture is correct. We are capturing data. Is it correct? How do we know that? There's answer. There's answer. Every day we capture from variety of sources in different velocities and in different volumes. We capture data, fine. But we don't know whether this data is correct. I'll tell you a classical example. Now, this was in some blog or whatever. This is related to the IoT, Internet of Things. Now everything is connected to the internet. That's what the IoT is all about. So, SAS, they have produced some racers, and they are chipping that racer. So, what the purpose is, they record the time when you start the racing and everything, the frequency, timing, everything. So they have done that. They have produced, and they are getting the captured data. But the problem is, you buy a racer from this type of racer, but it's a high value racer. You never use that racer. You give that racer to someone else. Now what has happened? You recorded this customer has bought this racer. That's correct. But ultimate user is not that particular customer. Someone else. I use the answer is there. Right? So this is a Sri Lankan example. In Sri Lanka, we have this people who build house and they sell it. But in Sri Lanka, most houses are bought by brokers. They are not the ultimate users. They buy the house and they sell it to someone else. In the system, it is recorded that this particular broker has got this house. So customer in the system, the customer is that particular broker. Right? It is not the case. Now, we all use mobile phones. How many mobile phones are registered under your name? My mobile phone is not registered under my name. Right? It's under my sister's. If they analyze these mobile phones with the gender, they get completely wrong data, right? It's under my sister's name. So these are the veracity issues we have, right? So on that note, let's move to the types of uncertainties, right? So one uncertainty is unable to measure. There are 3 types of uncertainties. One thing is unable to measure. Now, if you are working with databases, if something is unable to measure, we don't know, whatever we tend to the label that as null value. But actually, null is heavily misused in database sense. Now there are 3 types. undefined, unknown, and none. Right? Now, undefined means you can't define. Now, let's say you want to find out height of a tree. Now, what do you mean by height of a tree? From the root to the very top or to the average, that we have not defined. That is undefined. Unknown means you can't measure, right? You can't. I mean, you don't know this. Not you can't measure. You don't know this. Null is you don't know whether it's undefined or unknown. Both. You know nothing about this that particular activity. So null is basically the last option that we have. But in our case, we are not using null appropriately. Instead, what we do is we simply categorize them as null. Second type of uncertainty is imprecision values. That is, we tend to categorize people. Good people, bad people, young people, old people. But when you are saying young, what does that mean? Young means you have a range, right? Young means what's the range for the age? When you are saying this person is young, what's the age range? Okay? 40. About 40. Right? So, okay, let's say 40. Okay? I think even that you are not young, right? Right, so those are fine. Right. So, let's say the 15 to 25 is categorized as young. 25 to 35 is, let's say, middle age people. Now you see how injustice we have done. Person who is 24 years old, 20 at the age of 24 years, we categorize that person as young. Person who is 26 years old, we categorize him as middle age. Difference is only 2 years. Only 2 years. Right? Now you have okay, weather. Right? We say cold weather, hot weather, freezing. Again the same thing. We go with the ranges. But ranges are whether it's in the upper range or the lower range, we tend to treat them as a one simple table or nominal value. Right? So for those kind of a thing, solution is fuzzy logic. Fuzzy logic in next slide. The last one is modified after storing data. That's what I said before. That is when you are buying something or when you are recording something, you don't know the actual attribute of it. So you are not referring it. At later stage only you are referring, which is called in referred member. In data warehousing terms, it's called in referred member. So in this points onward, I am talking about the second point, impressions values. Right. So okay, there are two ways of implementation uncertainty. One thing is you save your data the way you are saving right now. Forget about the uncertainty. And you can run uncertainty type queries, which is called fuzzy query. There are a lot of tools for that. Fuzzy Prolog, Fuzzy Log, Fuzzy Pro, likewise there are a lot of tools. So those tools your input parameters answer. Depending on that answer, you produce the data from your database, right? So that is not challenging. The research are done on that area for long years. So not again. So there are a lot of systems for fuzzy queries. So second one is the little challenge. Rather than let it query, you into the system. So you store your data, your right? And freezing, minus 10 to 15, these are degrees. Cold, 15 to 40, warm, above 40 hot. Very simple. That's what we have been doing all these years. Correct? Right? Now, fuzzy is this. Fuzzy is less than minus 10. You have a freezing element as well as a cold element. After now you can see the from some value, I don't know, let's say minus let's say 0, no, not 0, minus 20 or whatever. From 20 to 0, I guess the cold factor is increasing, whereas the freezing factor is coming down. Now, if you look at some value here, let's say some value here, I presume it is, I don't know, like some value here. So in this value, you have a warm element as well as hot element. So the boundaries are not set, right? So you have treated uncertainty to some extent. Again, I'm not saying this is a very perfect model to handle the uncertainty, but to some extent. I have example also. Minus. Okay, I think minus 10 should come to this some presentation issues, right? Minus 10 here, right? So now here the typical way, classical way that we have been using this one: minus 9 freezing, minus 8 cold. A simple answer. That is what we have been used to. But now with the fuzzy set theory, things have been changed. Now here what we are doing is right. So at minus 9, freezing element is 0.6, cold element is 0.6, rather 0.4. Here at minus 8, freezing element is 0.4, cold element is 0.6. Now you can see for a subtle changes, earlier it is simply from freezing to cold, only 1% of 1 degree of change. But here you can see it is not that the wave change. Now what has happened is, now you have a combination. Now this is called membership function. You have defined a membership function. Now this function, for simplicity, I have used trigonometric function. It can be trapezoidal. It can be, if the things are very complex, it can be a gamma function or Gaussian function, whatever, right? Right. So for simplicity only, I have I have entered the trigonometric function. So that can be very complex function, depending on your data set and depending on your other contributing factors, right? So now, so these are we call classical fuzzy or type 1 fuzzy. There are other fuzzy levels as well, intervallic fuzzy and type 2 fuzzy. For the completeness of this one, this is little advanced, but for the completeness of this one, I'll explain what the type intervallic and the type 2 fuzzy. So what has happened is, here this is the left hand side. To your left hand side, it is the intervallic fuzzy. So now earlier you see the fuzzy value is just a trigonometry, but here it's a value also it has a fuzzy element. I don't want to discuss. I'm not going to discuss this in detail. Some mathematical models are involving here. So just for the completeness of I included this. Okay, now let's come to the implementation. Where we can implement this? In data warehouses, we can implement this in 3 cases. Right? I mean, I can suggest we can implement this in 3 places. One is direct fuzzy, measure as range, fuzzy categorization. Now, direct fuzzy is something like salary. Let's take the measure column. Let's say measure column in data warehousing. People who doesn't know about warehousing, measure column is that something that we measure. Your salary, revenue, whatever. I mean, in that sense, right? So those things. Now, we want to measure your number of employees or whatever by salary range. But then again, we are doing the same thing as we did before, right? 0 to 25,000, let's say 25,000 to 75,000, middle scale. So again, we are going for a defined set. In facility, we are saying crib set. So crib set 0 to 25,000, lower, so the low income. But rather than doing that, we can do a fuzzy membership. I mean, fuzzy, we can include first step for that, right? So we are saying, okay, 0 to 525,000. This is my membership form. It might be a trigonometric. It might be a trigonometric. Yeah, it can be trigonometric or it can be Gaussian, whatever, right? So 25,000 to the 75,000 or whatever, again, it can be any value. I mean, it can be any function, right? So likewise, for the direct fuzzy, we can define your membership function. Second thing also, this measures as range. Now that's what I said: age, the temperature, those kind of thing. Again, we can go for fuzzy. Now last one is little difficult part and difficult to implement: categorization. Now if I ask you coconut price, how do you categorize that product? Under which category? Coconut price? What do you think? That's what. Coconut price, if you are asked to categorize coconut price, what do you think? You put it to where? Yes? Just a guess? We normally it's the food item, agree? But it can be a cosmetic item as well. Yes, right? And during Vesak, you see uncertainty, right? You have, when categorization comes in, there are a lot of uncertainty. Now, if we analyze this and say, okay, food items are income is this. Now that is wrong. If you do this in Vesak season, right? If you analyze this in Vesak season, that is the complete. I mean, I'm not saying completely wrong. It is not very accurate, right? So then you need to treat this categorization as well. Now, as I said, this is a difficult part to do. You need to do surveys to find out why people are using this product, right? Likewise, right? Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Yes. Yes.
And based on that, we can divide which category to fall.
Which category or which function you are asking? The shape of the function.
Yeah, the shape of the function and how the guide sort of is.
Yes, now actually I didn't go into that detail. There are 6 methods, if I can remember. I think to identify what the how. Okay, now forget about this time variant thing. Now, how do you define the trigonometric, rhapsodical, or Gaussian? Right? There are 6 different ways of doing it. Now, likewise, your data set depends on the time variant as well. Now, let's since you asked this question, seasonal, right? You will see people. I mean, in Sri Lanka, when we are coming close to seasonal, I mean Christmas or whatever, people buy clothes like nothing, right? So, and that's also in the weekends, sales goes very high. So for the weekends, your membership function is different. The weekdays function is different. You can go into the extent that it is in the night the function is different, in daytime the function is different. And those research are not done, right? I mean, according to me, the research, the literature that I have done, the research hasn't gone into that level, right? So time variant, the date variants are not taken into consideration, right? But those are the areas that we can go in. Thanks for asking. Right. So let me show you an implemented. This is a research paper done on this. Done to implement the fuzzy using these 3 types. So basically, what they have done, this is very simple, not very complex one. So they and also they have not gone into the details of that. They basically they have done a POC kind of a thing. So what they have done is, if you look at the product at very top, product popularity. So what they have done is the product, what is the degree of popularity, right? Very popular degree, and unpopular degree. It might be 0.1 likewise. So this is the categorization part, right? Relevance. Now this is what it's saying is, okay, the coconut oil, what is the relevant it is to be a food item or the other way around, right? So degree of relevance. So likewise, again, the age, middle age, and like now as a if you are designing a big data system, you need to identify what are the attributes that you need to implement first. Because when you are implementing fuzzy, you are adding other overheads to your system, right? So then you need to consider that part as well, right? You need to handle uncertainty, fine, good, but then you need to consider about that aspect as well. It is not that, okay, today I go for all my attributes, let me go fuzzy. It's not that, right? It's not that, right? So you need to think carefully. You need to do some. You have to talk with the users whether you really need fuzzy attributes into your data. Now, so improvements, but the improvements you can do. Okay, now the researchers done on this area are extend only to the table level only, that is row column level only. Now, people who are doing data warehousing, we all know that, or we are working with the analytical data, we know that when we are analyzing data, it's not 2D, right? We tend to think about multi-dimensional cubes, right? The multi-dimensional cube. So cube or the multi-dimensional cube also need to adapt to this fuzzy the logic or fuzzy set. Another important thing is now again this might be a little close to the people who are know about data warehousing. Now we have a lot of slowly the dimension types. If you read the Kimball's book, they have 8 types of dimensions, right? Type 1, type 2, type 1 slowly changing, type 2 slowly changing, type 3, and type 4 likewise. So we need to adapt those. SCDs also need to adapt to this fuzzy theory. So other thing is in warehousing or in this big data, we are not simply presenting data to the user. We have KPIs feature, we have slicing, pivoting, and we have slicing, dicing, so on and so forth. So that's also fuzzy aspect needs to be brought into these aspects as well. And this, as I have been keep on telling, as Darshan asked, dynamic member function. Now, member function in all the research which is done up to now are mostly dynamic membership function. It doesn't change with the time. It doesn't change with the other attributes. Now, sometimes it can be a case that, okay, for some set of data, attribute the membership function is different. For some set of data, membership function is different. And also during the day night, as I said before, membership type function should be different. So those stages need to be adapted into this uncertainty handling. Now, I don't know, for some reason I missed one point. I think I include that. Now there is a what happens is when we are implementing this uncertainty, being technical people, what we tend to do is we treat the uncertainty from the technical point of view. I'll tell you a classic example. Darshan knows this example. That we were dealing with a system where we need to amalgamate. Okay, basically the system, one system has users. Their production data is in one other system. Right? So the HR data is in one system. Their production data is in one system. Right? So we are talking about here 120 odd users. So we need to match these users. Right? These are total two different users. One is on Sybase, if I can remember correct. Another one is on PostgreSQL. Now only way we can match these users are from their names. Right? We were able to match 101 users without any issue. Now we had 20 odd users where we can't match. So then we use fuzzy lookup and fuzzy grouping. that is we use Microsoft it's a SQL Server integration service. There are two controls called fuzzy lookup and fuzzy grouping. We were able to match another 20 odd people. That is basically you have spacers, E for A, likewise small issues. So another 20 we were able to match. There were 3 people we can't match. Any guesses why we can't match? Those 3 people are there in the other system, but we can't match by their names. All 3 are ladies. All 3 are ladies, and all 3 are married. What has happened is, in one system they have changed their surname, and other system they can't change the name. Process equal, so they can't change the name. Now, what we did was, this is Darshan and me. What we did was, we simply put them into the unknown. Uncertainty, we put it in the unknown. So I still remember, we went into this nice report, and there was an unknown. So now what has happened is these 3 employees or the artists in that case were linked to some studios and then whatever. So we have the aggregated report. The aggregated report they have nicely London, and these reports are coming out. The last one is unknown. So someone asked from the client, who are these unknown? So we said unknowns are these 3 people. That lady asked, if you know them, how can they be unknown? Correct, right? If you know them, right? And at that time I can remember we can read by from their names we can remember them, those 3, right? That much trouble we had, right? So we were now that's what has happened. We treated those uncertainty from the technology perspective, not from the end user perspective. She looks into it from the end user perspective, and she thinks that there is some answer. This is very certain you know that. Then we had a very how can I say, very small table, old name and this new name done, right? So that's not answer. You can handle it very easily, right? So that's a trap we will fall into, being in the technical the field, being more focused on technical stuff. We tend to lose the perspective. We tend to lose that we have looked from the user's perspective, right? So uncertainty is not that technology cannot be the uncertainty factor. You should look from the user's point of view, right? So I have missed that point somewhere in the presentation. So finally, quote from Albert Einstein: "So far as laws of mathematics refer to the reality, they have not certain, and so far they are certain that they do not refer to reality." So what means is, many of the real world things are uncertain, right? So being technical people or being technical high skilled people, when we are modeling, we can't simply ignore the uncertainty. Now what we do, if it is uncertain, we go and put null, right? You can do that, basically assuming, right? But being a technical people, we need to move forward, and we need to apply correct theories. The theories are there. The theories are there for a long time. So theories are there. It is that you need to adapt those theories and we implement those theories. So these are my references. Any questions? Anything you want me to clear? Nothing is clear. Yes. Fuzzy is the theory that has been used, right? So, to my mind, it is the fuzzy. Basically, if you look at the concepts, right, you can bring different concepts, but all are related to the fuzzy theory. So things like undefined, and if you look at the things that I kept here, fuzzy is only for the one. Okay, so fuzzy is only for here, only to this part. Okay, this is the point I described right now. Should be from the data perspective, not from the technical perspective. Right? So when you are saying undefined, unknown, that doesn't need fuzzy. Fuzzy is only for this set. Out of these 3, fuzzy is only this 3. So for the second point only, you need fuzzy set. Thank you.
No more questions. Everybody works with data, right? I'm sure that you have questions based on data. Don't worry about the language. Can you understand? Okay, we have people, right?
Yeah, we have.
You can ask questions. Sinhala, English, Tamil. No questions? Okay. So in that case, we'll go question. Thank you very much, Dinesh. Give us 2-3 minutes for setting this up. Give us few minutes. Okay, we will start the panel discussion. Let me introduce the members of the panel. We have Dr. Tushari Silva. She's a senior lecturer at University of Moratuwa, and she's senior lecturer for Faculty of Information Technology. Am I right? Okay. So she holds a PhD on information system, and she was MSc in Information Communication Technology. And the good thing is her research was done on big data. And so in that case, she has a lot more experience on the big data side and a couple of other things like social network analysis, social impact on innovation and crowdsourcing. Okay, that's our first lecture. Let me introduce the second person, Selvaraj. Did I pronounce your name properly? Right. He's a senior consultant at Virtusa, and he's heading all the sort of big data initiatives in Virtusa. And he is, of course, a researcher on big data technology, so he has experience on various technologies related to big data. Third person is from WSO2. His name is Sris Kanagaraj Subodhan. Right, okay. So he's a tech lead at WSO2, and not only that, he's a product lead of a product called Complex Event Processor. He has been working there for 5 years, and when it comes to his experience, so the all 5 years, he has been working on big data projects. So he has a lot more hands-on on big data projects, big data components, specifically on event processing. Okay. So of course, everybody knows about Dinesh Asankar. I have already given the directory part of him. But anyway, he's a senior architect in Virtusa, and he's one of the MVPs, most valuable Microsoft most valuable professional. Okay, so we'll start this discussion. I want questions from the audience. Okay, it doesn't matter whether the question is really high thing or it's going to be a very complex one. We love to hear from you, so make sure you ask questions. I know that when it comes to Asian audience, we are a bit reluctant to ask questions, right? But just make clear all your doubts and get all your things clarified. So we'll try to make it more interactive. So I'll give you some time for preparation. In the meantime, I'll just ask one of the questions I have prepared for the panel. Okay, right. So this is something I really want to clarify. Now, when it comes to big data, everybody knows about, like, everybody talks about big data. Everybody, like, when it comes to software vendor, they try to add something related to big data for their products, and especially when we try to do projects. And if you know that, okay, this project has database implementation and some sort of complex data processing, we try to add something related to big data. Okay, so my question is, one of you can answer. Do we really need to have this big data component in our projects, specifically when we have projects with data? Or else we have just, consider this as a sort of word or sort of component, all because of the marketing content. Okay, so just tell us the reality. Who can answer this question? We need the mic. I believe that this is working.
Okay. I think Dinesh, it's possible, right?
Okay. I think I should avoid that. Okay.
No, because if I'm looking for a yes or no answer, I would say a bit of both. Like, okay, any technical aspect, we want to go extra mile. That's our way. Okay. So when we have data, so why not we try something else? Okay, we are doing this, and we go ahead with the big data analysis, right? So from the technical perspective, we do it. On the other hand, let's say the vendors. Now, if you look at vendors, they are also for their products. Now, 10 years before, their products are simply storing data, right? Storing data, and they have security features here and there. You can import data, but then the environment has got changed. So, I mean, you can argue like this. You can argue it is the environment that they create. It can be the case. But the thing is, these big data theories or the statistical theories are there for a long time. But for other reasons, like we didn't have the computing power or we didn't have the storage capacities, the people are not using it. But now people can use it. Right? Because of that, they try to accommodate those features into their the product. So it can be marketing. I don't say in this context of in this of competitive environment that we have, they do their marketing stuff as well. You can't neglect that fact. That's true. But so it's there is a real need. There is a real need. And we have seen a lot of stories about the big data implementation around the world. May not be Sri Lanka, we might not have that much of implementation as we can speak very proudly. Because, I mean, that's I'm not saying that we have not done anything. But in other countries, there are implementation as well. So you can't say it's simply just the marketing, right? Marketing is there, of course, but then there's a real need for the big data.
Thank you. Any other answers based on that question? If you can add something.
Yeah, just to add to that, like based on my experience, like most of the firms or the implementations that they need is not really big data, so they can implement using the simple database management system and everything is fine. But due to the trend, they also like customers like to get this big data. So we have certain scenarios like when they want to use a database or the big data solution, they have to use five servers just to store like Cassandra, Hadoop, and all of those. When you bring all of those big data stuff in there, it's a lot of cost for them. Like, but they always wanted that in the initial stages. But then we talk about the cost and everything. Okay, then if I can live with normal database, I'll go ahead and do it. So if currently the computing power and everything is high, so big data is not really needed for a normal startup organization. But on the other hand, like when it comes to cloud and when it comes to organization, and if you're going to deploy your stuff on a shared system, in those cases it is all shared. So the data and the amount of data, that volume that you want to play with is high. Like even though you're not directly using those systems, but like if you are in the shareable system, then you have to store your data in the big data manner. And you have to think in that direction, how you can manage those data and how you can work on them. So even though you're a small organization, if you're very small, if you can't maintain your own database or a server, then you have to think of big data on that as well.
Thanks. Do you have any question related to that? Ladies, gentlemen. Yes.
So essentially, in my mind, big data is not essentially technology driven. Right? It is most of, in my mind, it's more about asking the correct question, and then big data essentially is something that will facilitate.
Okay.
Right, as opposed to technology being that we have to use technology and all of these, because there's a vast array of technologies, right? And there's Hadoop, Cassandra, and all of this, right? But I think one of the bigger challenges is actually asking the correct question, right? And then once you've asked that question, to actually figure out, okay, what solution or what technology do I go to sort of answer that? Isn't that sort of part of the?
But even I have another question on it. I know that so many V's, right? The last V is value, right? That has to be considered if you are going for big data solution. If I do not see, if I'm a business user, if I do not see a value based on this output coming from the big data, we have to go. I know, like being an architect or being a software engineer, we now to use technology. Even though client says no, I don't want. And if we have the facilities, we love to implement it, right? That's the reality, right? Whenever something was introduced by Microsoft or Place or Oracle, we try to use it, right? That's why I asked whether we really want it. So how do you answer the question here from the audience?
Answering the question is whether it's technology driven or the it's
See, the feeling I have is most of the time we think of it from a technology perspective.
Yeah.
But isn't it, shouldn't we actually think from a business perspective and actually ask the correct question first and then figure out the technologies to actually that are needed to answer that question?
so if you look at this way now, sometimes big data is finding out the trend that you don't know. In that sense, you don't know the question. So then you need to analyze and then only you can see what is your trend kind. In that sense, I don't, not always, sometimes you can't start with a question. So it depends, right? It depends, I would say. It's like, sometimes you can start with a question, sometimes you might have a very, so you need to pick something. Let's say you have a large volume of data, and you need to identify pattern. I don't know whether you have seen the Learn Asia, they did a research on mobile data. They started with just the mobile data without any questions. Now then finally they found out that with this mobile data they can come into clusters. They have clustered entire Sri Lanka, right? So basically what they have done is they have used, I mean, okay, we make calls, right? So depending on that call, from where you are making that call, they have analyzed how you have moved, how people have moved from one area to the other. Now they have started that research using Hadoop without any question. They want to find out, do we have any pattern from this data? And in that sense, there were no questions. They had only the data. And then they come up with, we'll try to do that presentation from the nature in the next user group. So they simply clustered through, okay, this set of people have these features. After 8 or 9, these are the patterns, so how the traffic will move. Likewise, they have come with a lot of other the aspects or the features. So it depends. It depends. From the researcher point of view, you might not start with a question. From the business point of view, yes, you might have to start with a question. So it depends where you are enjoying. That's my view.
Okay. Thank you. Any other answers on this? Shall we go for another question? Any questions from the audience? Yes. There's one more. Okay.
For a real-time search query, how we can watch the database against the real-time search query. For example, the CEP, using the CEP instead of H2 database or multiple database, and the attention multiple database and the increase the Excel speeds.
So this is more towards technical of my product that you're asking. So actually, like I'll just give a briefing on what's that. So on big data, like this question is on like if you're going to do process data on real time, like every time when the event comes, if something happening, I want to take a decision on that point onwards, like on that point there. Like I don't want to store that data and process it again. So on those aspects, we use certain so we get those data and sometimes we look up to the database. Like if I have the ID, I might check and get the data like his name, and based on the name, I might take a decision. Or based on this organization or something, I might take a decision on whether I would allow him to get into or not, something like that. So on those aspects, we have integrated real-time systems mostly with relational database, but not with big data solutions like Cassandra and other stuff. The main reason is like if you want to query Cassandra or the big data items, it may not give you results instantaneously because they are a little slow when it comes to getting like the amount of data. We assume the amount of data is high, and the results, the time it will, the response time will be slow. But there are some optimization. For example, you can approximate value to optimize the speed, but it takes a little bit of time. And the main reason is it's big data, and it might have lots and lots of data. So just checking a value on that is not practical.
One question on the same question that was asked by the audience. Now he was referring NoSQL, so you were referring NoSQL on your answer, right? So it is always NoSQL or big data or relational data. everybody thinks that whenever we say big data, it is always aligned with NoSQL. So what's the fact of it?
To my understanding, it's mostly NoSQL because like the amount of data is high and for all those 5 Vs, and because of that we can't preserve the ACID properties, and like for example you can't do transaction. We can't have limitations because of the amount of data that we have. So we have to let go certain aspects other factors. So that's why it's
More interest. Thank you.
Variety is higher no because you can have that's because so that is why people think I'm not integrate.
Designing system, are there any like technical parameters that we can take into account? Okay, I mean like when we should move into the big data solution from a traditional database, because I mean how we can tell in our client, okay, the best solution for this is big data, not the solution. I mean, as per my understanding, we need to invest more on big data solutions, right? So I mean, he might ask, okay, why you need this big data? I mean, we need to have something. Are there technical parameters?
So basically, what are the factors we have to use for determining whether we have to go with big data solution or general database management system solution? Anyone?
Actually, the big data system we determine the normal systems are better than the big data system initially. Because normally we decide that when it's a big data system, when your future or current system will crash your system, existing system, then you can think it's a big data solution you can go. Because the current system in SQL Server or anything is unable to manage your data volume, or your process, the velocity you are unable to manage, or your variety of data unable to manage, then only you can decide that you can go to the big data solution. If so, your project, how you think, whether it's the short term or long term, that you cross the limit, then you can think that you can go to the big data solution.
Thanks. Any other question? Yes.
Typically, for example, from the paper, so we have issued people chat.
Okay.
Everybody blaming on the technical side. I want to check whether it's because of the company's action. So, what we need to do is take the expenses, because people take the expenses when they buy a new SIM. So, in that pattern, we can find whether our customers are moving to another telco. Okay. So, but the issue is, most of the information right now we have stored, they are not anymore. We can identify the issue. So, in that case, if I go to the analysis, if I can find the report, I can't present it because this data is not anonymous and we need to find it. And then right now, how Sri Lanka is dealing with the privacy, because most of the data, when they are storing, they are not anonymous right now. You can find information below.
I believe that it's one of the security implementation that the government which
At the moment, how they are doing Sri Lankan organization, information is not anonymous. If you are analyzing this information, you can find through this information. So maybe that sense from there, leading to the situation.
okay, so your question is how we have to handle that situation. Not and how we have to handle the security implication. Is that the question?
But security, I'm asking that when we use some data, use this data to another vendor. Right?
Okay.
It's not
You have to.
some other supplies doing our project.
Okay. So you have to share your data.
Between that they are using this information for private, but that's the issue with that.
Okay, so the basic question is if you have a data set, for example, if you have a customer data set, sometimes we have to share our data set with some other vendors for different implementation. So differently something is going to be violated, right? How do you handle that type of situation? If you have already handled and if you have experience on that type of implementation, can you share your experience? Legally, theoretically, technically?
So I have worked with a similar scenario, like in New York, there is this yellow and black axis. So there was a recent case, and due to the case, the court has asked them to release the data. So what they have done is they have tried to anonymize the like users who have got in, and for example, they are, from the data you can know exactly where they get into the taxi and where they went. So if you have suspicious areas like in night, if people are going from here to here, you can redirect, identify actually like this place in this neighborhood has gone. Even then they can find your house. So there are a lot of privacy related activities. So those cases they have reduced the scale. Like for example, they put into boxes kind of thing, and they reduce the accuracy. Like a person in Bangladesh has gone, but if you don't really know like exactly from where he has gone, something like that. So you reduce those information so that it is very hard for people to backtrack. So that's one. So that's one scenario that I have come across.
You get the answer, Dr. Tushar? You have any?
Yeah. Actually, I have to share something. I also had an experience dealing with this data, which is very sensitive. And so in that case, actually, that's a good opinion. Like somehow we have to reduce the dimension.
Okay.
So in that sense, we are reducing some sort of digital making abilities with the data. So in my case, it's like project funds, right? You can track the people who have got the funds, so they started. Not a good thing to expose. In that case, like we can anonymize, right? We can pick anonymous names, and the secret data can be hidden. But when we go to the third party, definitely nobody can trace that. But the real information will be.
Is it technically possible when we talk about large data sets? I'm sure, like for example, telco, they're talking about. If I'm not making, I have worked with some of the telco companies. We process 80 to 90 million reports per day. So when we try to hide things or encrypt things, is it here using current technology? Is it possible?
Actually, there is a trade-off.
Okay.
Like we cannot achieve everything without using exact set of data. So somewhat we have to accept that fact, right? We can achieve 100% accuracy there. But also, if we are really using those type of information, again, we are doing something wrong. Those are very personal information, like should not be used by anything if they do it.
Okay. Since you have worked with a lot of local projects, can you just tell us some of the projects you have worked specifically on big data? Now, what I want to know is whether when it comes to Sri Lanka, right? I know that there are a lot of big companies, Facebook, Google, some big companies in other countries. They use this technology. Have we used it? Have we seen benefits out of it? If you have experience on that, can you?
Yes, actually, there are wonderful opportunities for us to develop these big data-based solutions. So I will answer the first question. Like we have seen such sort of implementation, data-related implementation in Sri Lanka. The ICTA has initiated big data project. So as the first step, they are going to collect the big data sources. That's a really important thing. And if you don't have data, if they are not really big, there's no use to go for these big technologies. And better to use the traditional database management systems and get things what we want. So the first thing is that how big your data set is, not only on the volume, the speed, in which speed they are coming in, right? So as a first step, the ICTA has used this, they are going to collect the data sources first. For that, they have used this free Wi-Fi initiative. Right, you might have experience in everywhere you go, there's Wi-Fi facilities, right? Free. So you might use it. Remember that.
So what you're saying is we should not continue with the Wi-Fi.
No, I don't think so, because that would be the failure for their project. So definitely use it. According to the information I have got, right, they are going to use this the usage behavior of these technologies for the transport, but measure the quality of the transportation. Right? So definitely they will be use these things in the future, but I'm not ready.
Still it is being done, or
No, they're still working. Yeah.
okay, that's it still continues.
Yeah.
So still we have not found any specific significant pattern on
No, because
just to make sure that we don't use
That's the one. Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions from your Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
In this world of big data, so I want to somehow learn and master the subject.
Okay.
Could you kindly guide me through, since what is it that I should study on? Okay.
How you have to prepare yourself for
Exactly.
right. So who can answer that? Okay. The question is basically this. Now, if I really want to, like, I might have worked with general database management system. I might be having sort of experience on the programming or different language. Now, if I really want to work with big data solution, how I have to prepare myself? What are the if I have do I have to go for certification, or do I have to learn specific subjects, or do you have to go for specific institute? What are the opportunities we have?
I think I can answer this
Okay.
question. Actually, the big data analytics, right? The big data always goes with analytics terms. So if you dig into deep, so you'll definitely find out that the technology we are using for big data analytics has no different from what we have learned for your undergraduate studies like statistics, mathematics, prediction, right? So you may need some database knowledge, but if your data is really big and it's coming with high velocity, a lot of uncertainties is there, and definitely you may not be able to store them in relational databases, right? The values are uncertain, right? So in that case, how do we use this passive logic and also these artificial intelligence, machine learning techniques, pattern recognitions? So all these are interrelated. So big data, there are theories, the fundamentals, right? So what is big data? Like you have opportunity to learn about it today, and if you want, you can dig into deep and you can find out what type of technologies will be used to analyze big data. So what sort of information you will be generated, right? So it is not a thing like because of big data is very popular term and everybody's talking about it, I should go for it. Actually, you might have gone there, but you really don't know because you might have used these statistical machine learning techniques, how to recognize the patterns. So it's just about coming with lots of data set with high velocity, variety, velocity. So there are 5 ways, many ways will come.
So are there specific certifications for big data?
Yes, actually there are some certificate courses, prospective certificate courses related to this data science thing, because big data is a particular area, so it's better to go with that at big terms like then it's easy to survive.
So if I want to go for one of these certifications, what is the procedure? Are there any institutes or universities?
Yeah, now the universities have started to provide these courses. They have started to conduct courses. And also I have seen in lots of, not in Sri Lanka, lot of foreign universities, they have started their PhD programs in data science. So totally related to big data and different technologies. And also they are recruiting lots of lecturers and student professors just to teach big data and data analytics, data science. So you can see that how they are preparing for the future.
Okay, that's great. One more question on it. If I do not know anything about big data, what should be my first step?
It's a good question, like you don't.
Google. I just adding on this question. Normally, my view is the big data is or not only math, because it's a lot of programming involved. I divide it into three categories. Actually, it's data science separate, and program separate, and the environment setup is separate. Because the big data environment setup is not easy, because you need to get a lot of vendors and configure the software is not easy. Anyway, but in the both is a different skill. It's So you can't find the mathematician with the software development skill very difficult. And the software guys with the mathematics is again is a difficult. Therefore, even industry now only matured, it is later. Because even in the foreign, you can see data scientist is a different role. And the Hadoop developer or the Spark or any Hive is a separate skill. Because you can specialize if you have the program. Or you have the IT background or environment setup, you are very keen, you can do it. And if you want the free courses, you can, the Coursera is a very the site you can go and log in free video courses. You can machine learning to data science to everything is there. And even the certification, there's three main vendors: is Mappa or Portenworks or Cloudera. You can Cloudera. Then you can register and there's a certificate, but you need to pay some money. If you are willing to do, because the investment is not.
I think Hortonworks has some right.
Yeah, if Mappa have a free courses, but that courses the work on not different, but you have a free courses, even they provide the certificate as well. You done the free course, you can get the certificate.
Coursera also there.
Oh, Coursera, most of the courses are free.
Yeah. No, they are now. They have the paid courses as well. Coursera, Udacity, they are.
If you want to get the certificate, you have to pay.
Yeah. For the Coursera, they are giving the certificate for the. If you want to pay for the certified something, right? Certified something. Yeah, verified certificate. For the verified certificate, you have to pay. Otherwise, you will get a certificate.
Thank you. You get answer. Any other questions? Yes, sir.
I have two questions.
Okay.
First question is, I work for an organization where there are 2,000 of the SQL servers, and they are thinking of putting everything together. And one of the solutions that we looked at is to have a large cloud relational database system. The second option that we have is to go for a big data solution. That is my first question. So if I had to go with the big data solution, then I did some research on the internet, like what you said, I Googled it, and
You can link to.
yeah, and I came back with so many suggestions. For example, there is semantics, there is triple store, there are so many varieties of big data storage. So I'm confused. There is a plethora of options available in front of me. I don't know which one to choose. What is your suggestion?
Okay, so the question is, okay, even I have that question. Now everybody talks about MapReduce, Hive, various type of components due to big data. Now, how can we decide what sort of component, what sort of technology, or what sort of vendor we have to go with? Okay, it is always MapReduce, or is there something else? What would be the future? These are the questions we always have whenever we see that okay, we have something to be implemented using big data technologies. So how do you decide? Yes.
So, in my opinion, like if you have 200 MySQLs and if you're going to put it all into one now cloud, that's not a simple task. For example, big data is not. I would say the big data is not the single word solution for that. You have to look at the business use case behind that. What are you doing with those 200 SQL databases? Like basically, if are you just searching for some values continuously, or you are doing a periodic analysis like a report, you're generating a report like financial report or something, or is it a transactional stuff, like if it is like a bank kind of thing. So based on those use cases, for certain use cases you can go for big data, because like if you want to create a report every day, then you can run a job in the background which collects all the data and create a report out. It is possible. If you are just going to look up those data and analyze on something or to identify patterns on that, yes, you can use big data solution. But for transactions or certain type of operations, you can't just go to cloud and use it. So there will be always a mix of relational database and the big data storage. So what we usually do is when we have the raw data, we put those data into non-NoSQL databases. And then we run summarization on that, and we get the summarized results and put the summarized results into RDBMS database. Because the reason we put it to RDBMS database is because we have nice visualizations that we can do on top of RDBMS database. From big data, it's quite complicated. So the big data is there to store the huge data set where you can analyze like basic, like Hive is basically like SQL. You can write queries, but those queries should be like, it's more of a MapReduce job. Like you are dividing the whole data set into parts. You are like getting the sum, you are getting the sum of sums, and then you're basically getting the final result. So that is how it's done in the background. So you should know what is happening behind it and whether your problem can be solved through that. So that is a research that you have to do when you are trying to solve that problem.
Okay. So if I go back to this question, he was referring relational databases, right?
Yeah, relational.
Okay, so it's all about combining all these relational data. It's going to be very large, but do we have to consider it as big data solution or big data implementation?
If those relational databases are small, if they are sizes, and they may be large, but it may really not. I don't know sometimes it doesn't make sense bringing them together. For example, based on the use case of using those databases. Okay. It is not tables, like it's not 200 tables that you're going to bring.
Okay, assume that we have a scenario like we have set of database, we have 100 of databases, and all these databases are with millions, billions of records. All these are based on OLTP implementation. Now, if there is a requirement for combining all of these is consolidation, do we have to consider big data implementation, or it's still going to be a relational database implementation?
I think in that case it would be a big data implementation because you can't do that on the relational database. If you can, you would have already done it. So it is because of the scale and the capacity we can't handle that. So as he mentioned before, like there's a tripping point before, like we can't handle that with the relational database, volume based. So on that point we have to go with big data. But when you go to big data, you can't achieve everything that you have in the relational database. So sometimes certain operations might take long time, and your system should be like, you can't lock on the system to get the results. Like you might need to run the job on background and get the results up, like send an email, the results, things like that. So if you want instant results, you might need to have some summarized data stored in several places so that you can show the latest information from the summarized reports, but not always going to the big data set and searching for that. So you might need to come up with several workarounds to overcome this, but that's how it's handled.
Thank you. Any other questions? Yes. Okay, that's a question.
So with common big data, there are a lot of technologies like HBase, Hive, Big, and now the Scoop and the Sparkly. So my question is like, when you come as a new young guy, so how to choose this, and what will be the difference of it?
So let me repeat the question. Basically, there are so many big data related supportive projects, Storm, Peak, so many things. Like, okay, how we can select the best one for our solution? Again, like is it always MapReduce, or are there anything else that can be used with big data solutions?
Yes. So to my knowledge, like so the big data technologies are also evolving. For example, the initial hype on big data is Hadoop. Now the Hadoop hype is almost gone. Now people are going towards Spark because Spark is an improved version of Hadoop. So there is an evolution on that. So we have to see like if you take a project from where it is evolving from. So that might give you an understanding whether you are in the latest one or not. And a lot of projects are on research level. Like they try to solve different problems. Yeah, but there are a lot of holes there. Like for example, like when it comes to Storm, there are a lot of issues on solving. So they are trying to build another solution with certain improvements. So So it is under research and there are a lot of development. So that's why you are trying to see that you are seeing a lot of implementations and people try to solve different areas of big data, like different P's through different hotkeys. So that's why we have a lot of big data solutions. For example, on the area that I am working is real-time processing, which is the same thing like big data, but we try to focus especially on the velocity. Like we want to do things fast as possible and the amount of data is high. So how we can solve that problem? So that is not Hadoop or Spark. So that is not going to be the best solution for that, but we go for Storm and things like that. So there is streaming analytics, there is batch analytics. So there are different type of analytics for different reasons. So based on that, you have to pick on those data on them. But in general, like if you want to start as a newbie, starting with Hadoop or Spark will be a good start for you to understand what it does, and then you can explore into different other areas. Maybe if you are already familiar with SQL, maybe you can use Hive with Hadoop. So Hive is a way of writing how the Hadoop should work. So you can also program in Java and put it to Hadoop so that your MapReduce job will run on Hadoop. But if you have Hive, you can write in a SQL script like manner, and you can and it will be automatically compiled into a job where the MapReduce will run, and it will put it to the Hadoop. So there are it's a top level program on top of Hadoop. So likewise, there are abstractions for ease of use. Yes.
On the previous question, so you say that previous scenario moves on a bank. Say you have 100 databases. On a bank, the first part is utilizing as well as possible. So can we achieve it putting on board together on a video?
Okay, so let me repeat the questions. Again, we are going back to the same scenario, right? So we are talking about large number of relational databases, purely designed for OLTP applications. So all we have to basically prioritize for transactions. Now, if we combine all of these things, again, without using relational database management system, you put all those things through big data technologies, can we really handle transactions?
So again, if you take the databases like MongoDB kind of, it doesn't support SQL properly. So then you have the trade-off there, right? So it depends what technique that you are using. So relational database, when you come from relational to the big data, obviously you have to drop some the features, you have to compromise some features, right? So again, it's balance, right? Okay, you are dropping this to achieve this. So as you said, you can't simply put my database here, okay, I got them into answer. That will not work. You have to analyze it. As you said, you have to analyze it. It depends on the scenarios. But I mean, not only that, any system, any organization can't compromise for their OLTPs. I mean, that's their second matter. Okay, you might have nice analytical stuff. That's the second. So in that sense, you can't simply put database into one server and say, okay, I have done migration criteria. You need to analyze, you have to find out what are the users, when they are using, what is the SLA, so on and so forth.
That you go to that, in the industry, you see how they keep one data and one private.
Yeah.
Can you put them together and work at?
I think it's not a good solution. Because these two are catering for two different, if you look at the data warehouse, reporting, you run the volume of queries, right? And because you have to protect your OLTP, that's the data part. And so it is not quite, it depends how much large your databases are. Let's say if your reports are very small in nature, if you can tolerate that, that's okay. But you need to understand that you can't, your server shouldn't consume much resources for the reporting. So it's not an idea, I would say.
So we come to the point where we have to consider a business case.
Business?
Business case.
Yes, obviously.
Okay. Good answer. Any other question? I have one more question. I'll ask that question. I'll try to get one more question from you. So you have no issue with data and big data, relational data? Yes, sir. Please.
say, okay, we have got all the qualifications required for a job or whatever. Okay, in big data, after already proceed the course. Okay, now does those course are there any place using the skills that you have acquired already for you to do some practicals?
Okay, the
Real
question.
world practicals online.
So your question is basically, in order to do these courses, do you need to have different set of skills, or do you just is there a
Let's say you have already acquired the technical skills by following this course.
Right.
Can you keep on practicing this course? Whatever the skills, are there anything available?
Okay, so the question is basically now, let's say you have learned, MapReduce, Hive, and all of these things, where I can apply for continue with my studies.
So in other words, what he's asking is there any available repositories that we can use for our practical?
Are there any platform we can simply use without paying? Okay. I'm sure that you want to add that part, right? So are there any platform where we can use for testing all of these things? I know, Microsoft provides some sort of facilities, but it is limited. Other than Microsoft, you recommend or? Yes, yes, please.
Yeah, the first of all, is nothing is free. It doesn't indicate that you don't have any chance to put things or have the things to practice. In that scenario, it's okay. So you follow courses, you study things, and you have some sort of knowledge. And there are free data sources, right? Some sort of way, but not really. But you can still put those big data technologies in practice, right? I have gone through this data science course in Coursera. So they are giving some hints and also some data sets,
Okay.
right? So using their during the particular period, so you can use their platforms to test those data
Right.
and study what you have learned and get more skills on it.
So what you're saying is there are places where we can use. I'm sure it's going to be limited, but still we can use those platform for practicing. So I know for sure that Microsoft Azure has some sort of facilities. In addition to that, I know that Hortonworks, gives a VM that can be downloaded and used. Is it still available? Or? Yes.
I think it's most preferred. Your computer, you put the VM and try all the technologies, and that is easier. Even similar data, you're able to write the program and write the MapReduce or whatever, you are saving all the things, you can test it. Only your challenge will come whether you are able to handle the big data. That time, only whether it's any other company provide the free source to analyze your data. That's of course, at the moment I not see. But if you have little money, you can get the Amazon.
Can you define little money? How much?
No, because we tried actually in the one of our projects, the main initiative, reduce the cost and do the better analysis. What we done is we create the instant AWS cloud because through the script we create the instant cloud and then analyze, and after analyzing over we store the data out and download the cloud. Then we can it's not that much because the hourly cost is very less. You can take.
Okay, so there are platforms available. You can try with these platforms and see.
If you want to direct the Hadoop, I also can install it, but my advice is Ubuntu is free, so and Hadoop also free, you can download, and guidance are outcome of guidance are there. So within 10 minutes, you can continuously calculate everything before taking more than 10 minutes, except the installation or anyone. So as you are thinking, it's from my experience, so it's nothing. So if you want to just create a part, then the image you can install in your machine, you can only one is, this big data is, creating it a cluster. So clusters, that's also possible. You can do production virtual or something. You can install a profile virtual machine in the same laptop, and you can configure, that will take some time. Also, Spark, Hadoop, and everything, you can install it as a standalone. So that's more than enough to get all idea. Okay, if you want to learn John or Mesos or something, custom management, except that one, everything you can learn in a laptop. So if you have at least 80 memory, it's more than enough.
Okay, thanks. So yeah, so what he said is exactly correct. So
Also, one more point, if you see the YouTube videos, around it's unlimited, all free. Okay, especially these Indian guys and all putting their, their presentation for sale. So they will put mainly for the part one, part two. Also, it's unofficial. I like one more point, even rural side. We have good, like rural side. They are willing to buy that also. You can download freely. Okay. I don't think
I don't think your rural site allows you to download
but I
anything.
just
Thank you, Ma. Thanks.
yes, so I would add to that. So like in WSO2 we produce products. So one of that product is called WSO2 DAS, Data Analytics Server. So the Data Analytics Server basically contains Spark and RDBMS solution and H2. So what we basically do is spec Spark and basically reshape it with different clustering and better management solutions. So if you want to use basic Spark, you can download Spark and try it out. So we also do shape it in that way for our own support and customer scenario. So that's also you can just start it and run it in your machine, or you can have two of those instance started running in cluster, so on and so forth. It can be managed. And basically the bottom line is you can learn everything from your laptop. So that's the understanding.
That's good. Okay. So I don't think we have more time. So I'll ask my last question. Okay. Are there any, like, everybody says, like, we have to go for big data, right? So if you see the job market, do we really see a lot of job opportunities on this big data technology? That's my question number one. And second question is, can we earn a lot from, learning this? I mean, like, if we can't earn, like. So first question is basically, what you can say about job opportunities?
We will earn more. Okay. Job market, I can't think it's everywhere you have jobs. I don't think you have any in Sri Lanka. In other countries, we have the data scientists in organizations. So we have not come to in Sri Lanka.
Yes, specifically Sri Lanka.
Yeah. So in Sri Lanka, I'm not seeing that market opportunity for the big data as a job. But in the research area, you have big opportunities, right? So as Dr. Tushar said, there are a lot of opportunities for people to work in other universities and other organizations. But it will get there. Obviously, it might not be an overnight thing. Depending on the market what you need and depending on the environment what we have, it will be get there. But thing is, at that point we need to be ready.
Okay.
So you can't wait until I'm learning big data until when there are jobs. By that time things will be different. So you have to be ready now, right? So you never know. Right? You never know if you are there. So the second question, okay, that I can't answer now. So I said,
so yes, if you just tell us what would be the range? Like, I have seen in many articles, many books, what they say is if you go for this technology, you will be one of the person who earn a lot, right?
Yeah.
So it's been mentioned in almost everywhere.
Yeah, if you look at the other countries, the data analytics people are getting more money. That's the reality. So I don't think there won't be any change here in Sri Lanka as well. We don't know. We have other issues in the IT sector is coming up.
We are not supposed to discuss.
Yeah, I don't discuss anything. So provided, forget about those things, and so we will have a market opportunity. So then, thing is we have to be ready. So let's forget about what will happen in the market. Be ready with it. Let be equipped with the right tools and technology and the others.
Thank you. Right. So thank you very much all for panel members. I believe that we learned a lot from them, and thank you very much for sharing your experience and knowledge. So we have prepared a small but really valuable gift for you. Okay. So let me invite Dr. Janaka Vijayanayak from University of Kerala to hand over this. Okay, Asanka, ladies first, sorry. Okay, I have to make a couple of statements. Okay. First of all, I must thank again Sarindu on this for reinitiating this big data meetup. We'll be continuing for sure, right? Okay. Still, we have not decided the frequency. It will be once a month, or okay. So we will decide. Okay. So we'll decide based on feedback. We really want your feedback. So go to Meetup page and just write whatever you have learned from this. And if you have suggestions, if you want to get something else arranged with, something to do with big data, okay, with this forum, just comment on that page, okay. Then we can organize this big data meetup based on your feedback, based on your comments. So again, thank you very much for organizing this, and I must thank our marketing and cooperative communication department for supporting us, arranging all of these things. We were able to do it in this big data meetup in grand scale because we got the support from this department. So thank you very much, specifically Rasika and Indumati and all team members. And I must thank all four members again, Dr. Tushari, Selva, Suho and Dinesh. Thank you very much for joining with us and sharing your knowledge and experience. I must thank Krishan too. Yesterday I called him and asked whether he can record this, so he said yes. So thank you very much, Krishan, coming and recording this. We'll be publishing this video, so you can go through it again. And thank you very much, you all, for joining with us. Again, we believe that you learn something, right? And we like you to invite for this, right? Come and talk, come and share your knowledge. I'm sure that some of you have already done some real big data implementation solution. So if you can share your knowledge, you're welcome. Okay, right. So we have there are a couple of things I can see what we have organized, but refreshment is ready. So please have it and go. We expect you to see again, right? We'll be announcing the next meetup soon. So I hope you will be joining with us in the next meetup. Thank you very much.
Yeah.